All right. Okay, it says that I'm live, and welcome everyone. Yes, I know. Oh, you can't reconnect. I am so sorry, Wendy, that you can't reconnect. I hope we can do this show. It looks like we're having technical issues with getting on live. I saw Jenny and I could hear Jenny, and the viewers could see and hear us, but she couldn't see or hear me. So it makes it a little bit difficult to have a dialogue that way. Can you guys that are online right now, can you chat in the board and let me know if you can see me and hear me on the online feature, the video feature? Can anyone see or hear me? Huh. Doesn't look like the, let's see, I have the recorder hand is up on this. I have about 8 callers in the room. I have about 13 people on the video. Can anyone that's in the video see me or hear me? Can anyone that's listening, are you in front of a computer? Are you seeing me? Or okay, Jenny's coming now. I see Jenny coming in. I hope she can hear me and see me, but I don't see. Hi, Jenny.
Hello, Bill. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can. Can you hear me?
No. Can you hang around in case?
You've got the event going again.
Yeah, I have the event
Event's
going.
It says on air.
Yeah, I started it.
Okay.
This is so funny. Oh, okay. So I have a message here from
I'm
Jenny.
not seeing anything on the chat. I'm wondering.
Okay, let me.
Click on chat.
You
Click on
guys,
chat.
I don't know what's wrong with the with the. I don't know what's wrong with the video. We don't have chat, and we don't have video. Well, I don't know. I don't
think that's the right thing.
It looks like no one can get back on the video either because we've already started the event
I don't know what those are.
once.
This
Okay.
one.
Andrea, I'm going to unmute your mic.
Is that off or have I?
Go ahead.
No, those have got turned off for some reason.
Hi, Andrea?
Yes, I can see you on the video, both of you.
Both
of you, but there's no chat.
Right now.
Oh, wait a minute.
No.
Now I think the chat's on now.
So I've got 13.
Okay. Is it? I see a few people on the chat, but I don't.
So
I don't
now click on chat. See whether you. No.
I'm going to send you one now.
Oh, okay. Now I see that it's working. Catherine says it's working. Okay, the chat.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I don't think I can hear Bill.
Yes. We hear you. Okay, so it doesn't look like Jenny is seeing any chat just yet. Okay, so all right, I'm going to mute your mic, Andrea, because I'm hearing a double.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll put your hand down. There you go.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Jenny does see the chat. Can you hear me?
Jacqueline, you can hear me. Am I talking at the same time as Bill is?
Hi, Jenny. I'll open and then ask someone to.
I think this is rather tricky because I still can't hear Bill, and I don't know why that is.
Oh, can you see me? Can you see the chat, Jenny?
Yes, Bill, I can see the chat, so do go ahead.
Okay, good. All right, then I'll open. Good. Okay, this is great. I'm not that fast of a typer though. So welcome everyone to the
I can't hear Bill
hilarious
at all. No.
week 3 of the art of peace and happiness, and we can only just laugh. I know we can only just laugh. I'm just going to say, for me,
Both.
this week is about your sharing.
But any of the other people you can hear.
Hold on, and I'll give you the mic.
Oh, okay, Bill. I'll make a start then. The title of this section, the origin of the separate self, it's got a most beautiful irony to it, because throughout all of the 31 pages, Rupert is actually explaining and emphasizing that there is no such thing as a separate self. It's because we imagine there is that we encounter so many troubles and experience so much suffering. So he starts with the first the following statement, which I think is which I think sums up all of it really. The essential form of the separate self is a thought that imagines that our self-aware presence does not pervade all experience intimately and equally, but rather just pervades one little part of it, this cluster of thoughts and feelings here called me, the body-mind.
Mm.
And in that first chapter, The Essential Form of the Separate Self, he explains that what we call the separate self or the ego is just a dividing thought. It divides things into me and not me. It divides everything it sees. We live in a world of duality, a world of opposites, with that one dividing thought. And it was lovely. I was watching the last few nights a beautiful production of Hamlet on the BBC from the Almeida Theatre Company, and there's a line in it which Hamlet says, "There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." And I guess that's
Yes.
that's also a summary of the first chapter.
Yes.
But what seems strange, I suppose, is that one thought, one dividing thought, can cause all of this trouble. And what Rupert explains in the next chapter is that it's that dividing thought that makes us feel so small and so vulnerable. And in order to make us feel less afraid, less afraid of death, less afraid of what the world can do to us, then huge numbers of other thoughts arise, and it's all those other thoughts together that form what he calls the separate self. He has a beautiful analogy of it's a cloth which is made up of many different threads. All of the threads are the different thoughts that we have, our hopes, our desires, our ambitions, our successes, our failures. All of those things make up this this cloth.
Mm-hmm.
And he concludes he concludes that chapter by saying, where when we look inside towards this apparently separate self, a moment comes, and it's always a timeless moment, when our self recognizes itself. So inside this this cloth, when we look inside, we find there's no substance there. It is just made out of thought. There's no substance.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes on. The next 3 chapters I feel are very, very important. The next one being peace and happiness are not states of the mind, and that was something that I found really one of the hardest things to understand, because the word happiness to us does mean a state of mind. Normally, it's the way we use that word. Almost one needs a different word for it, because if we look for happiness as a state of the mind, then we're looking for something which will come and go, because all states of the mind come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And we would then misunderstand what happiness really is.
Yeah.
And I think it's I found it very, very hard to actually see that constant happiness that not only is there now but has always been there. You know, throughout the whole of life, has always been there, and that can't possibly go away. It's something that is so quiet, because we're so preoccupied with the objects of the mind and the body and the world, that we don't notice it. But once we do notice it, then everything changes.
When did that?
So I don't know whether you want to say anything, Bill, because when right, okay. When did that change for me? It was after, it was during my first retreat, and I had so many conversations with Rupert about this state of happiness, because I was not believing what he was saying. He was saying that no, your happiness, the real happiness, is there, even when you're terrified, even when you're really sad, even when you're totally distraught, it's always there. And I was really not believing him, and not being able to see it, more to the point, because it's not really about belief. But then he did a yoga meditation, and suddenly I just found it. I just as a result, it was, I just saw it there, and it was very lovely. And that, but I mean, that's not the end of the matter, of course, because after I went back home after that retreat, things, I was on cloud 9 for several months, but then I don't know, things did, things got less clear for me, and I then did a huge amount more self-inquiry, a much deeper self-inquiry, and then gradually, as a result of that, it stayed there all the time, and it's always accessible.
Yes. Okay, I'll talk. Just a minute.
Okay, Phil.
Yeah, Jenny, and everyone that's listening and watching, I love Jenny's explanation here, and I really want Jenny. I really want you to carry on after I have a few things to say here. And uh, what I want to say is that that idea that you just expressed, that the mind, the states of mind, is it almost can be an imposter. It sounds like a little bit like the spiritual ego, and that's why we don't get it. We think we have it, and if the only way of knowing that we're not, it's not quite there, it's still in the mind, is from the coming and going of happiness. And so that's just what I want to share with you all that are watching. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jenny, and then I'll tell her what I said. This is a funny broadcast.
Okay, Bill. So, well, what he says a bit later on in this part, I'll just read a bit, because I think it's so beautiful. The simple recognition of our own being is the transparent experience of peace, happiness, and love. When the body and mind reappear, they are saturated with the peace of our true nature. The body and mind are reorchestrated by this timeless experience of peace, happiness, and love, and all sorts of pleasant states may appear in them as a result. And the nature of these states may vary. In some they may be extraordinary and exotic, in others less dramatic, and with more of a dissolving or melting quality. However, these states inevitably wear off in time. Yep. If we believe that peace, happiness, and love are such states of the body and mind, we will inevitably think that peace, happiness, and love have worn off with them, and will go out in search of them again. The separate self is recreated with this search, and our true nature is, as a result, correspondingly veiled. And I'm sorry, Bill.
Oh, I love it. It's totally in sync. Keep going.
Okay. Another point which which maybe you haven't touched on. He is when he talks about. I think it's in the section "Happiness is never absent." That once you've got in touch with this real peace and happiness, in other words, this constant peace and happiness, it doesn't mean that all the residues of the separate self have completely disappeared or washed out of the body. And he says it's rather like waves breaking on a beach and gradually erasing the sand drawings that the children have left behind. With each wave, part of the drawing is erased, but it may take many waves, depending on the depths of the lines. So basically what happens is that you're not getting new threads of the garment created again.
Yes.
The threads just get, well, the whole garment gets more threadbare, and gradually is seen less and less. I asked Rupert once about something Carl Jung said about Ramana Maharshi, and that was that he, and this is something that Rupert often quotes, that Ramana was a white spot on a white page, and I asked Rupert how to become a white spot on a white page, and he said, "Well, don't try to. Um, just live life as much as you can from your love and understanding, but don't try to be perfect, because if you actually knew Ramana Maharshi, then you would probably have found that he wasn't either a totally white spot on a white page."
Mm. Yeah, good one. Yeah, thank you, Jenny. I love the Jenny. Can you see me? Can you see me? See if she can see me. Can you see me?
Bill, I can't actually see you. No, I can't either see you or hear you.
Oh, that's funny.
um,
That's funny.
so, yes, maybe you're the white spot at the moment.
Okay, and the viewers can too.
You see both of us. Well, that's astonishing. I've asked Richard if he can explain it, and he says that, oh goodness, he says that it must be a setting at your end on the equipment there, because there's nothing on my equipment which would prevent me seeing you.
Oh, we see and hear both. Yeah, Hillary.
So I guess we have to continue like this. Do you want to talk now, or would you like me to say something more?
You talk. You talk.
Okay, Bill. So another thing, a little bit later in the book, trying to find exactly where it is. I think it's towards the end. It's towards the end of the book. He talks about desire, and
Oh, love that.
That mostly desire is a desire for the ending of desire. But he does a little bit after that. He starts to talk about personal and impersonal desire, and there was a lovely conversation about that at Buckland Hall once, where he explained that personal desire is a desire for something, for an object which you feel will make you happy.
Oh yeah.
So people might desire a nicer house, or a better car, or a relationship, or equally a calm state of mind. We're going back to the states of happiness again. But all of those are personal desires, because they're a desire for an object. But there's another type of desire, which is an impersonal desire, and he explained that as a desire just to celebrate and share your understanding with other people. And he gave all sorts of examples of where that type of impersonal desire tends to get fulfilled, where sometimes, quite often, personal desires won't get fulfilled, but that type of impersonal one tends to get fulfilled. However, he said that the way you can tell whether a desire you have is a personal or an impersonal one is whether you whether you mind if it doesn't get fulfilled. And I thought that was the most lovely description.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to talk. Okay. I'll talk a minute. So Jenny, oh, you can't read my writing. I'll talk. Yeah. I totally love that. And Jenny, you'll be able to come back. If someone would just type in there for Jenny, let her know that she'll hear what I say when she goes back and watches the replay. She'll get to know what I said. Otherwise, it's just I'm talking to you guys. And one of the things that I love about what Jenny just said is that this describes our most of the time this describes our problem in relationships with. This is why the divorces happen. This is why we have problems in communication, is because we have an attachment to the special relationship that we've created with someone, and we have an attachment to the outcome that we want it to be a certain way. And this tells us that this gives an indication that this is this special relationship is a temporary form of happiness that we're seeking that we're seeking in the world. And so it's not a true expression, it's not a true experience of happiness, because it's just like she said a few minutes ago, this kind of desire comes and goes. It comes, okay, so as long as, you know how it is, I love the way Rupert explained in this chapter where he said, or in this section where he said that it happens when you are wanting to an object, you want to buy something, and you get the thing that you were looking for.
Thank you, Annika.
You can't wait. You can't wait to I do this myself. I go on Amazon. I can't wait to get this awesome technical part. I can't wait to get this. I can't wait to get that. And as soon as I buy it, or as soon as it shows up in my mailbox, I open it up. Oh, it's here. Yay. And then 30 minutes later, I'm like over that. So it's that temporary happiness that first kind of desire brought versus the impersonal desire that you were talking about. And Jenny, what's your next favorite mention in this chapter? I'm not very fast at typing, you guys. I'm sorry.
Okay, Bill. Yeah, yes. Well, what I wanted to say a little bit more about was this idea that when you sink deeper and deeper into this timeless presence that we are, then you're sinking beneath the level of the body and the mind and the objects of the world. And Rupert says that when you do that, then it seems like the body and mind are washed clear of all the tensions and agitations that were previously present. But he explains that unless we're absolutely clear about the non-existence of the separate self, it will keep coming back again. And that's why it's really important to get that absolute clarity. So rather than thinking, well, this seems all this teaching seems very sensible, it seems really, really nice and really loving, and I believe it, then it's very, very important to question it for yourself, and to really question it. And the technique I used to use was my mother-in-law was a barrister, and so I used to use a technique which barristers use, which is you have to be able to present arguments on both sides, and so for everything that Rupert said in the teaching, I looked for arguments on both sides, and it was through that process and really, really very rigorously questioning my experience and looking at it um, against what Rupert said, that things become clear. And then once that is clear, once it is clear that there really isn't a separate self, there's absolutely no doubt. It's not only no doubt at the top of your mind, there's no doubt right in your heart. Then things do change. You don't lose. You don't lose that feeling of peace and happiness, because it I mean, I remember from the past, it was awful. I felt I had this wonderful peace and happiness, and everything was wonderful for about 3 months. This was before I went to Rupert, and then it went, and that's devastating. And it's so frustrating as well. But that's really the remedy, is that you must question absolutely everything. And then once you've questioned everything and everything is absolutely clear, all that's necessary then is to abide as that presence of awareness. And to start with, it's easier to abide as presence of awareness when you're sitting down quietly with your eyes closed and you're letting all the objects fade into the background. But then later on, what Rupert is always very keen to do with people is to get them to see that in ordinary experience, and he talks about gradually raising the bar. So to start with, you try to abide as that peaceful presence when you're doing ordinary things like getting up in the morning or making breakfast, or traveling to work or wherever you go. And then a little bit later, you try things in harder situations when you're seeing a relative that you have difficulties with or something like that.
Yes.
And you just keep raising the bar. I see that Annika, you've commented on that. I can imagine. I can imagine how you felt. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing to know from someone like Rupert, or you, Jenny, or you, Annika, or you, Andrea, or I mean, any of us. It's so refreshing.
Yes, and another thing, I hope I'm not talking across you, Bill.
Go ahead.
Another thing about those residues is that unlike this this understanding of our true nature, which can happen quite quickly when we first come to the teaching, but the clearing away of all of those residues takes a long time. Rupert himself spent, I think it was 7 years with Francis, and it was really only first year and a half that he was sorting out his understanding, and the rest was just being with him, and through that helping to clear away those residues. And the yoga meditations are the key way. But sometimes Rupert gives people specific sadhanas to do if if they have a difficult son or daughter, then it might be something to do with their relationship with them, or all sorts of things he suggested to different people. So it's really good to go on a retreat and to ask questions and get very individual help, because I think that process, the first process of understanding the teaching and understanding as no separate self, that's kind of fairly standard and well explored, the ways you do that. But this it's almost a purification process, is something that's very individual. Oh, about the failure of the search, Bill. Yes, yeah, okay. Yes, I mean, I love what he said at the end of this chapter, rather than saying what I think. I think I'd like to just read this actually. Now that this exclusive association, which is the association with the characteristics of the body-mind, has been abandoned, the body and mind and even the world begin to be permeated by the qualities that are inherent in ourself. They become progressively luminous, open, empty, transparent, and peaceful in a never-ending dissolution of all form into presence. Everything begins to shine with the light of our own being. So the search fails until we really begin to inquire into our own nature, and to see that we really don't share the limits of the body mind. So we're not a tiny fragment born into a hostile world and destined to die. We're everything. We're everything that is. We're light and love and presence and happiness.
Yeah, yeah. I love the SSS comment where.
Yes, Phil. I also the separate self syndrome. That's absolutely great. Yeah.
Really funny. And then, can you speak on page 85? Can you speak?
And I've noticed that Annika has said it's been quite a hard path for her, failure after failure, and yes, I would say the same. Sometimes people think that the direct path is a very easy one, because there's no spiritual discipline that you are told to do every day. It's not about struggle, it's not about effort. You don't have to get rid of your thoughts. It all seems so perfectly wonderful and easy, but it is one failure after another until you finally recognize your true nature. So not necessarily an easy path.
Yes. And Hillary, I like it when he says.
Okay, Bill. Page 85.
Yeah, top of the page. I hope you have a book.
My edition is a much earlier one than yours, so it's going to take me just a moment to
body and mind are very good
find
servants.
out. You're talking about the experience of being.
This is weird. Just a second. Just a second. Here we go. Try that.
The body and mind are being good servants.
Yeah.
Yes, Yes, absolutely. They do what they've been trained. Um, they do what they've been trained to do all your life, and um, they sort of they continue. I think it might be Francis Lucille who said it was a bit like a sort of clockwork toy that you wind it up and then it goes on working for quite a while till the winding up runs out, or if it's a battery toy, till the battery runs out. Um, so
Yeah.
I still haven't found quite what you're meaning.
Oh, okay.
I wonder whether this is it. I think it's on my page 88. For so long, our being has assumed the characteristics that properly belong to the body and mind. Now this exclusive association has been abandoned. Body and mind, and even the world, begin to be permeated by the qualities that are inherent in ourself. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Um, the um, the world does appear in the way that we imagine it to be to some extent. So if we're always fearful, then it will seem that there are many things to be afraid of. We have a friend who's always scared of the authorities doing something awful to him, and his life is one of terror because he envisages a world that is like that, and that's such a sad thing. But when you understand that the world is simply a dream that's well, referring back to the nature of consciousness, the dream that goes on in Mary's mind, then you see, well, yeah, there are things going on in the world which don't seem very good, but none of that, and sometimes you can do something about it, and sometimes you can't, but none of that disturbs the peace of true being, of the being that you are. None of it can ever do that. Whatever happens, whatever Donald Trump does, whatever Theresa May in the UK does, it doesn't destroy our being. Our being is always pristine and pure and just as it is.
Yeah. And Jenny, let's see. What did I say? I find it interesting that Rupert says it is
yes,
not.
I have. That was interesting, Bill. It's not the separate self that seeks peace and happiness. Absolutely not. I I think it's something that just it sort of seems to be inbuilt into the dream of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's only it's only presence that can want to get back and dwell in presence. It's Jane that wants to get back to her true nature, which is Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's you see it in different ways in different people. You see it in scientists who just have this love of truth and love of understanding. How does all this work? And then there are poets and artists and musicians who just love to express their feeling of being, and are just striving to express it more and more and more perfectly, which means understand it more and more perfectly. So it arises in different ways. Some of the comments from others, right? Right here, okay, from Hillary, they're all going off the screen so quickly. It's precisely because the light of peace and happiness shines even in our darkest moments that we are motivated to seek.
Yeah.
Well, to seek the truth. I can't read the rest of that. It's not here, but I think it means to seek the truth. It's seek what we really are, and I think that's absolutely right. And Andrea, beautiful comment from Andrea here. We have to be willing to face our pain, and that's never really easy. So many of clients stop because they don't want to look. They're afraid they'll not survive the experience.
Yeah.
I can totally understand that. You know, something from Annika I wanted to read, and I've lost it again. Yes, this one. It's beautiful. The seeking and the going home is all consciousness at play. So, absolutely right. And the Hindu tradition, that's the play is known as Leela, and Rupert talks about the two meanings of Maya, illusion. We say everything is illusion. Everything is in mind, essentially. That's one meaning of illusion, or one meaning of Maya. Everything is a dream in the mind. But the other meaning of Maya, which he calls the higher meaning, is as creative display. And I think that relates to Annika's comment. It's we don't in this path reject the world. We enjoy.
Yes.
We enjoy the world. We share our enjoyment of it. That's what the path is about.
Yeah. That was new for me when I met Rupert. Was going back into the world.
And Andrea says this is important. Even in those dark moments, I feel a presence with me, and I find great comfort. Immediately my heart opens and I feel home, and then understanding comes.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things I'm going to talk for a minute.
Oh, this is a wonderful comment from Arthur.
Oh.
God is frisky. Brilliant, Arthur.
So I just wanted to talk about the top of this page 85 for you all that have the more recent book. It says the body and mind are very good servants. They do what they are trained to do. And he says for decades, they have been trained to serve an imaginary inside self. And the vast majority of most people's thoughts, feelings, activities, and relationships are devoted to fulfilling the voracious demands of this imaginary self. When it becomes clear that there is no such self, the belief in it is no longer fueled but the old habits of thinking, feeling, acting, and relating on its behalf will inevitably continue for some time. And Jenny, I know you can't hear me. I wish you could, but I just love this explanation because it really tells me that until I come to this place, until I come to the place of, I'm just going to type in place of 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 complete awareness, I would say. Complete awareness. I will follow, or
But
I
you're
will,
already in the place of complete awareness.
yes, 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 yes.
We all are.
Yes.
It's it might be for some veiled from time to time, but we're all there.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes, I was just really expressing from it's almost like this what comes after that, where Rupert says the belief in separation and the numerous ways this belief has manifested in our thoughts succumb relatively quickly in most cases to our new experiential understanding. But the way we feel the body and perceive the world usually takes much longer. And for me, it's almost like, we're talking about a born again experience, like the Christians talk about being born again, and this awareness experience and allowing yourself to notice the experience but not give attention to it in reacting, just allowing it to occur, is the experience of being. It's allowing everything. It's just like the Beatles song, just let it be. So I know you can't hear me, Jenny, but thanks for pausing so I could share that. And the mic is yours. This is so weird. Sorry, you guys. The mic.
Hi, Bill. Thank you, Annika, for explaining what's going on. Absolutely great, really helpful, and others who've also done so. Okay. Well, I don't know what Bill has been covering, obviously, in this session. But if there are any gaps that I see when I look at it again that neither of us have covered properly, then I will try and find some YouTube clips or some transcripts which we'll sort that out and at least give people some idea.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm not even sure how to sum all of this up, except to say there really isn't a separate self. There are no separate selves. Everything is simply consciousness, and all that's needed is to really question your experience in the way that Rupert suggests, and he gives so many different pathways for doing that questioning, and that's absolutely all that's needed. And then once you have that understanding, then just to stay there, stay abiding as the presence of awareness. It it's not difficult. There can be some circumstances in which it seems difficult, but just practice to start with in the easy circumstances, and it gets easier and easier.
Yeah.
So I think we're possibly coming up to the hour, and I think that's possibly all I have to say, Bill. So I hope this hasn't been too much of a fragmented webinar, but I'll see when I look at the results.
Thank you, Jenny. Wait to sign off. I just wanted to say, yeah, this has been fragmented. It has been a little bit weird. It is interesting, though, isn't it? Isn't it interesting how, I mean, we made this happen. It's not some God out there, this technical God out there that's saying, okay, I'll fix you guys. I'll really make this hard, this communication hard to communicate. This is just like the separate self. She can't hear me. I can't, I hear her and I'm listening, but the ego has no idea. The separate self has no idea of what the communication line is that's happening with our divine self. And this is sort of a metaphor. We made up our own metaphor of fragment and division and being separate and not being able to see, not being able to hear. What a comedy this is. This whole thing that's taken place with technology. I just love it. But Jenny, you are such a beautiful. I just love your message. I love how you share. I love your insight into the teaching of Rupert. And I want to thank you with all my heart for being one of our guests on the show and a very important part of this book study club that I started. This time it's the Art of Peace and Happiness. And I love you like crazy. I love all of you, and thank you all for joining with us and sharing this week. And next week, I think we're going to have Annika on the body. I'm not sure we're going to use this platform because I don't like I like it to be more reliable. I may switch to a different webinar platform. I will let you know by email if I do change platforms. I was thinking about changing after the end of this book study to Easy Webinar because it's more reliable, but I may just go ahead and bite the bullet and change it now because I just don't want to have a book study that is this. Of course, I know I just said I made this happen, but I don't have any. I don't want to communicate this way with you guys, so I do have peace around it. I'm still happy. I haven't lost my joy or my peace of mind. But I do want to have a platform that's going to work for all of us, not just some of us. And for that, I would say thank you all for joining with us. Yes, it did work. Thank you. Yeah, it's life. Love to you, Jenny. Love you all. Thank you all for that's so. I know, isn't that funny, Catherine? We made this happen. We set up our own example of the title of this talk, which is the origin of separate self. It's crazy. And thank you for being on as a co-host on the show today. I think you'll be able to watch when you play the replay. I think you'll be able to watch the whole show. I certainly hope so. Until I see you again, I'll send you. We'll have some dialogue through email, and I'll see you all next week on Wednesday at 12 o'clock. And thank you guys for doing the call-in feature. I didn't want to have you raise your hand on the call-in feature because Jenny actually wouldn't hear you either because this is coming through my system. So until next week, I'll see you all then. And I'm signing off. Jenny, signing off. Bye, everyone. I love you.
Goodbye, everyone.